This is Joyce Meggett reading One More Chance, or Why I Brought Back the Dodo. Everyone knows the children's book with the iconic drawing. The portly gentleman in French cuffs and soft cravat, his robust features and strangely bulbous head the comic giveaway. They've gone in and out of fashion a dozen times, brave characters whose artless wisdom we're meant to take to heart, once we finally finished laughing. We had an artifact of theirs at home, a child-sized chair with figures cut in low relief. Carved all across the front, a stern procession marched, but turn the thing around, and joyous figures in their hundreds danced and played. I always wondered why it wasn't mine. I planned to visit them when I grew up, and then, like you, I learned they were all gone. Our forebears meant no harm, our teachers said, but resources were limited, and one has one's own interests to look out for, after all. I harbored grief and shame about their loss for years. They'd been right here, the Dodonean people. The celebrated drawing hurt my heart. I studied chemistry, the least romantic field I could imagine, and made self-replicating spider silk and thus my fortune. As strong as diamonds, if more tractable, and speculation about my processes abounded. One day, as I amused myself with the latest crop of foolish guesses, my eye fell on some news about the dodo. Their genes contained some DNA from us. What happiness was this? Imagine it. There were a few of us who joined with them before it was too late, and they all lived in harmony together beneath the wheeling sun. That was me leaping to the wrong conclusion. The article went on to say no bodies of our ancestors were ever found among the dodo graves. Our genes had joined with theirs because we raped them. You could have known this too if you'd happened upon certain pages in the popular press on a day or two in August, some 30 years ago. It was their trusting nature did them in, of course. Anyone else could have predicted what would happen as soon as we turned up. I tracked down the original study, and after that its author, badgered her until she showed me her research, rained money on her pet projects, the dodo were an offshoot of her interest in genetic memory, till she agreed to clone them. Then came the years of trial and error, dashed hopes, and tragic losses. By the time we had our great success, I'd learned everything there was to know about their history, beliefs, behavior. I acquired the 6 surviving infants, and I spun them a whole world, and broadcast their lives on special programs yearly. I'd like to think my storytelling skills improved as time went on. The first release was practically raw footage. I excised the parts where I was sobbing and ended with triumphant shots of sturdy babies. The viewership expanded every year. Only now, you know you weren't watching actors. The entertainment page's breathless coverage of the children returning to the set for a few weeks every summer? Pure nonsense that I wove for you with care. I kept them on that vast soundstage year-round. No other life besides the one I gave them. No school but my instruction. No food apart from the wholesome stuff that was their birthright. I taught their games to them and held their ceremonies, gave them the finest artifacts I could acquire, and those I couldn't buy had reproduced. I was pleased my family's artifact, the little chair with marching figures, had been so well preserved. Since I could trust no one with my great secret, I'd switched round day with night from the beginning. While they slept, I took up my place in the business world again. I knew they sometimes left the house at night, their night, I mean. I'd set up cameras everywhere, as you'd expect. I saw no reason to acknowledge or prevent these small excursions. Beyond the house was nothing that could harm them, only fields and woodland they knew well. The soundstage, as I said, was vast. Of late, I'd barely glanced at the new footage. Between instructing them all night, my night, and fending off the latest business crisis, even my reserves of energy were wearing thin. By now, they were 12 years of age and muscular. It took a lot of exercise to wear them out. As for my work, I spent my days ensuring no one else made cheaper spider silk. I should have guessed the distance they could cover and still be back in bed when I returned. I never thought they would deceive me. I hadn't even conducted their coming-of-age ritual yet. They must have tried 100 times before they found it, slipping out to march until the hardened air, the best matte landscapes I could buy, prevented them from going any further, then feeling for the door that must be there, the door through to the other side, where joyful crowds would surely be awaiting them. It's always been their trusting nature does them in. But let's consider this a lesson learned. Next time, I'm going to do it right, if you'll permit me. You wait and see.